We're live.
Okay, we're live. The official cowbell, more cowbell. All right, welcome everyone to the third Science in Stoke webinar from 2021, Rebecca's Giddy Up Challenge. It's go time, people. And so tonight is all about your execution. You've been training hard, you've been getting ready, and it's time to go. So we are going to really focus on Q&A here. We're going to dive right into some of the nitty gritty of this week, day of, week of, day before. But so make sure to put your questions in the Q&A box throughout the session. We'll answer them if they're relevant to what we're talking about in that moment. And we'll also take time at the end to really dive in. And this is what makes Giddy Up Challenge special, is you get access to myself, my coach, and this is about really making sure that we empower you to have your best ride, your best run on the weekend. So don't be shy. Put those questions in there, and we will get to them throughout the discussion. All right, and as you know, well, this is really exciting. We're giving away, as we did last time. We've got 3 giveaways to give away. So if you stay until the end, ask all your questions. 3 lucky people are going to get a Be Good giveaway with a mirror insulated mug, the same ones I use in Alaska, keep your drinks hot all day, a Be Good camp mug, and a Feed Zone table cookbook. And these are some of the meals that I make all the time. Really easy, good athlete meals. We'll give away 3 of those. We'll random draw at the end, and Tim will announce the names. And we like presents, so we'll give you presents for hanging out with us. So that will be at the very end of the webinar.
We will bribe you to hang out with us, right? We're going to bribe.
Yeah, we got to bribe you to hang out with us and give you presents. Give equals get, right? And as you know, you have your dynamic duo here, your training leaders, my coach, Tim Cusick, who is the science behind all of this. And he is my coach. You guys know his background. He's coached Olympians, world champions for years. He's developed a lot of this software that we use for our training every day. He really is a mastermind of coaching and technology, and not just the science, but the human science behind it all, of really helping squeeze the most out of people's performance. And he's really been amazing in helping me. We've been working together for a couple of years, and I've had some of my best performances that I've ever had in my life this winter in Alaska and Iceland. So thanks to that guy right there that you see on your screen. And of course, I'm here. So I'm here. I think you guys know me. I've been an athlete for decades in multiple different sports: whitewater paddling, climbing, rock climbing, running, and most recently cycling. And the big part of what I do, yes, I'm an athlete and still competing and doing my own expeditions and adventures, but a big part of my mission statement is twofold: to one, to continually inspire, empower, and challenge myself to be good, but also to inspire, empower, and challenge you to be good and reach your highest performance. And that word empower is really what these webinars are all about, is give you the tools to learn and execute and have access to people like my very own coach and my experience. So that's what tonight's about. Keep the questions coming. We've got, between the two of us, decades and decades of experience that we want to share with you. So that's what tonight is about. You guys know the progression. If you're just joining into Science in Stoke 3 and you haven't gone back to Science in Stoke 1 and 2, I do encourage you this week, go watch those. They're on the website, pre-recorded. And it's like the graphic there, you're climbing a mountain. So we'd love to start at the top, but it doesn't work that way. So go ahead and review 1 and 2. And then tonight we're going to talk about 3, executing your plan. And this is really about prep week, the day before, and the day of. So you've got a lot of the homework in the bank, and really now we're going to hone in. And the reason we plan and prepare is it just makes your day better. And so we're going to kind of dial into the nitty gritty of what I do for the Stoke part of it and some of the motivation and the gear. And then Tim will dive into the science of what you should be doing for your body, prep week, day of, and day before.
Great. Let's talk about your challenge.
My challenge, yeah. So this is a little different this year, which I'm kind of excited about. And I think that's what's cool about this challenge is there is something for everyone to choose. And based on, I had a really big winter of 3 massive expeditions. And to be quite honest with you guys, I'm really tired. and so not that this is going to be easy over the weekend, but I really wanted to, I wanted to get involved with the run part of the challenge because I know a bunch of runners are coming in. And I also stepped down from last year. I Everested on my bike. So I'm doing the half Everest on Friday. All day Saturday, I'm going to be cheering for all of you and engaging on social media and sending high fives. And then on Sunday, I'm going to do a hike run up our local ski hill for a quarter Everest. So that is my plan. If you're still trying to figure out your plan, set the goal, put it down, even if you're not sure you can do it. Don't go up to the day of being wishy-washy, like, I think I might do a quarter, I might do half, I might do this. Set your goal and put it on paper, write it down, make a plan. And we're going to talk about a little bit, if things don't go exactly as you planned, that's okay. But don't go into the event without committing yourself. I think that's part of, we rise to the occasion when we sign up for something that seems hard and scary. And, full disclosure, I went and did my hiking route this weekend, and I only did it one time up the hill. I'm going to have to do it 2.5 times. And my legs are really sore from coming down today. So I could barely walk down the stairs in my house. But that's okay. I know it's going to be really hard. But that's the point, to kind of inspire yourself to do a little bit more than you thought was possible. So that's my challenge. Tim, what is yours? What are you doing?
I am going to attempt to do a full Everest. So it's on my agenda. I'm attempting to do it.
Okay, so I'm going to use my old coach's words here, Dean Golich, who there is no try, there is only do. And I'm stealing that from Yoda. Yep. So I want you to change that language. This is part of the motivation of Stoke. Instead of saying, I'm going to try, oh, I might, I'm going to do an Everest. And, I'll give Tim a little bit of crap about that, but the language you use on yourself really matters. Mm-hmm. And so use affirmative language. I'm going to do an Everest. Tim's going to do an Everest, right, Tim?
That my goal would be to do an under 11-hour Everest.
Woo woo! So he's got a time goal. That's really cool. Awesome.
So good, strong run.
Dude, that's fast.
That's painful, yes.
Coach Tim is fast, in case anybody doesn't know that about him.
I wouldn't say it's fast. I'm stubborn.
Sometimes that works. That works well too.
Yep,
awesome.
Like you.
Okay, so a little bit of the Stoke. Why do we do hard things? It'd be a lot easier to sit on the couch this weekend, put your feet up, mow the lawn. But really what I've found is that when we push ourselves further than we thought, there is a magical thing that happens. And, risk equals reward, passion equals payoff. When we step outside our comfort zone, I really feel like that's where we evolve as humans. We tap into who we are, and we tap into kind of why we're out in nature. And for me, you guys all know the Giddy Up Challenge is a fundraising event for the Be Good Foundation. And that's my foundation that I launched in my father's name. And the mission statement is to use the bike as a catalyst for healing, empowerment, and evolution. And I know, and you can add your running shoes in there as well. We all know that being in outdoors, if you're on this webinar, you're an endurance athlete, and you know what magic happens when you're outside, moving your body in nature, working hard. It really is a healing place. You grow as a human, you feel strong, and it's a personal evolution for yourself. Added on to that, this is a community empowerment event. We had so many people last year who you might be executing your challenge in Spain or in South Africa or Pennsylvania, but we really will be connected as a community. I had so many people say, God, I felt like I was doing a real event. And it is a real event because we will be connected socially. And, last year, my ride, I'd never done an Everest, and it was actually kind of easy for me because I felt so much energy from all of you. I was getting the Stoke, I was feeling it, I was seeing it on social media. So tap into that, because community is really a beautiful thing. It's why we all ride bikes. It's why we run. The endurance world is part of our community. So even though we're far away geographically, we have 9 countries, I think, participating, and draw on that because we're all standing on the same earth. We're all standing on the same ground. We're all riding and running for the same purpose, which really is about healing. And our specific target for the Be Good Foundation for this year's Giddy Up Challenge, I think you guys know this, but I'm going to reiterate it because fundraising's open, and we are really working and targeting our efforts this year towards land conservation and access. So these 6 beneficiaries that we partnered with all work on keeping the outdoors open and accessible and protected for everyone. And so when you're out there riding and you're suffering, just remember you're riding for your own growth, but you're also riding for protecting the spaces where we go to heal and feel strong and feel like ourselves. And so these are the groups that we're working with. I'm really proud of who we partnered with. And like I said, get people behind your ride, get them to donate a couple bucks or whatever per foot. And that's going to push you. That's personally going to give you strength, knowing that you are riding for yourself, but also riding for the places, really our outdoor church and the places that we really cherish. All right, so for tonight's webinar, you don't have to read all this, but this is how we're going to break it down. Week of Stoke, my prep, the science behind what you do the week of, the day before, what you're going to do, and on the science and the Stoke, and then the day of, how you're really going to lay it out, what happens with pacing, nutrition. And so Tim and I are going to go back and forth on that. All the blue stuff is me. All the orange stuff is Tim. And like I said, keep the questions coming as we're in these little sections. Make sure you ask your personal questions because that is what's special about the Giddy Up Challenge and this program that we set up is to really answer your questions. So we'll go right into prep week, which is right now. You're in it. Congratulations, you've gotten this far. Sometimes I feel like just getting to the start line of something is often the hardest part. So week of, what I do is I go pretty nitty gritty, and Tim knows this about me. I do something that's called control the controllables. And one, it helps me because I'm all nervous about an event. It really kind of reassures me if I plan my stuff out, and that includes my food, my bike equipment, my clothing, all the things that I'm going to need. And my process for this is I actually really like to make lists, but I also really like to physically lay everything out. And I happen to use my pool table in my basement or my garage. And so I've already started laying out things of the nutrition that I think I want is all in a little basket. And I kind of look through it and make sure, and then throw a few extra things in for good measure. But I physically want to see everything laid out. And what that helps me with too is that I'm like, oh my gosh, my bike light, I forgot a rear flashy bike light, or I forgot this, or I forgot that. And I like to do that now because I don't want to be doing that the night before an event when you need to be sleeping, you need to be resting. It just causes emotional stress. So do yourself a favor, don't procrastinate. And even you just start laying stuff out in piles, lay out the shorts you like, lay out your favorite socks, check the cleats on your shoes. I happen to know that my brakes are shut on my gravel bike from the last adventure I did. So I got to get my bike to the bike shop tomorrow. So really go through. And so I will break it down like this. Like I'll go through all food, and I try to focus on one segment at a time so that I don't forget something. So I don't jump around from like food to clothing to bike to this to that. I kind of stay in a category. And so for food, for example, I'm going to lay out just kind of like you can see the picture here. I calculate the number of hours, my estimated, the number of carbs I want, the foods that are my happy foods, the things that normally work, the things that if I'm really in a dark place, that just like a slice of pizza that might make me happy. And so I really try to plan the food and nutrition based on what my normal protocol is, but then also what is like I'm not feeling great protocol, or it takes longer than I thought protocol, so I need more food. And so I will lay all that out. I put it organized. I put it in baggies. You can get really kind of super detailed with this, but I do find the more detailed you are then on event day, on race day, you're just not going to have that emotional stress of like digging through a big food box that isn't organized and being like, I know I have that one thing. I really want that one piece of food and you can't find it. And so just having things in baggies, labeled, stuff like that, just it takes off emotional stress the day of and while you're executing your event. So I organize all my food that way in one box. Tim's going to just talk a little bit about the breakdown of food. And I bring way more than I think I need. So here's the thing to think about. The beauty of an elevation challenge is you're going to be returning to your aid station, your car, whatever it is, your cooler, multiple times. And so you don't have to carry all that stuff. It's not on your back. So go heavy, take extra stuff, plan for the worst case scenario with your food, with your clothing, with the weather, everything, because you don't have to carry it. And if you've got it there, that's awesome. So bike equipment, well, that's my next category. So I'm gonna have my standard, the bike that I want to use. I put bigger tires on, I put smaller gearing on. I know the bike when I use it needs brake pads right now. But I'm also, last year for my Everest, I had a second bike just sitting there, my mountain bike, that, hey, if I get tired, I want some suspension on this gravel hill climb, or I completely break my bike in half. I had a whole backup bike there. You can take an extra set of wheels, because why not? If you have them, throw them in the car. Or take another bike if you have that option. And I also take extra, I needed lighting last year, so I had backups of all of that. I had my primary, and then I had backups just in case. Clothing is the other category. I had my primary clothing that I wanted to wear most of the time. And then same, I had down jacket, I had over booties, I had long tights. And I'll tell you, it got down into the 20s and, on the descents. And I had a puffy coat on with a hood, all my clothes on that I had brought on the descents. And the tricky part was, my aid station was at the top of the hill. So you ride down, and then it was hot climbing up. I was down to a jersey and nothing going up, and then freezing cold on the way down. So make sure that you accommodate for changes in weather, but also knowing that you're going to get sweaty on the way up, and then you're descending. And so you possibly get really cold on the way down. So planning the clothing that way. Same thing as with the food. I put all the socks in one little stuff sack that's one color. I put the jerseys in another bag that's another color. I kind of color code it, or use mesh bags that are see-through. So you're not looking for that one pair of black arm warmers amongst the black tights and the black stuff. So I separate it out. And then I can, even if you've got someone with you, I can say, hey, can you get my arm warmers? They're in that mesh bag that says SRAM on it. And I always organize my equipment that way. Again, it's just takes off the emotional stress, and your body doesn't really know the difference between different types of physical stress. Stress is stress. And so I organize my clothing that way, but bring a lot of extra clothing. You might bring an extra pair of bike shoes if you have them. Definitely warm gloves, shell gloves. Even if you're in a hot climate, it can get cool at night or get cool when you're descending. If you're dealing with heat instead of cold, like I was, make sure you've got, light colored clothing. Maybe you even have, an ice sock that you could put around your neck for climbing, for some of those things. So really think about what you're going to be the most comfortable, and bring it all. Bring the kitchen sink, because you've got an aid station and there's no reason not to. The technology, this is something we're getting a lot of questions on, and plan out. You need to know, how long will my Edge 1030 Plus last on, even if it's on battery save mode, or, if you don't know how to use battery save mode, highly recommended. You can look it up for these kind of challenges, because your route, you're going up and down it the whole time. You don't need to look at a map, once you've got it figured out. But you want to make sure your batteries are gonna keep running for your lights, for your Garmin, for your phone, if you're recording with Strava, for your headphones, if you're listening to music. So I have my primary usage of technology, but then I have backup stuff. I'll have a little tiny battery brick that I can ride with, plug it in, and the Garmin can be charging. So while you're riding, you'll look at that stuff, but lay out all your technology, lay out the cords you want, and yeah, just don't wait on that stuff. And then same thing, I have a little technology bag that's all the stuff is in there, and I just know what color it is and I can grab it out, and it's organized that way. Doubles and triples of everything. And then comfort stuff, a chair to sit in when you want to sit down and eat some food, or you've got to change your shorts. Puffy coat is really nice to pull on if you're stopping and having a meal. If you've got the aid of some friends that are going to be with you. We had a bonfire that was really nice. My husband brought a little fire pit up there that was super nice. But yeah, think of some comfort things, because you're going to be working hard on the hill, and it's nice to have, a hug or your teddy bear or a chair or whatever you need to kind of give you a little love in those. And if you really need love, tune into Instagram and tag us, and I'll send you some love along the way as your comfort. But that's what I'm doing week up. I'm actually planning that all out now. I'm laying it out on the floor and kind of editing, adding. But yeah, bring the kitchen sink if you're not sure. But yeah, I have my primary stuff, and then I have the extra stuff is sort of off by the side. Anything I missed there, Tim, with week of planning?
No, I think that was really great and in depth. And actually, I'll build my science on it.
Okay.
One of the things, for me, it's so important that people accept this idea that all your fitness is built. Right now, we're restoring performance, meaning if you think about the stress-strain relationship and how we adapt, we've been putting on stress and strain. And now if we truly want to adapt, and you've been adapting throughout the program, but now if you really want to get to a maximum performance place, we really have to remove stress and strain. And that's what I call build your tapering mentality. We focus on in training so much about, harder, more is more, longer is better, all that stuff, because that's true, to be honest with you. Progression in training, be able to do more and work harder is part of the improvement. But when it comes to performance, quality performance is built on less, appropriately timed less, but less. And that's the taper mentality. You need to make less stress and strain. So what I think works really well, Rebecca, and this is always one of your strengths with your approaches, by doing that now, instead of it some crazy yard sale event going on the morning of or the night of, where you just got stuff everywhere, you'll be least stressed as you get closer, instead of the stress escalating, that mental worrisome stress of, do I have this? Do I have the right plan?
Well, and with the training taper this week, you've got time. So take that time that you're saved from, you don't need to pack in a bunch of hours right now. My former coach told me, like, the only thing you can do at this point is blow it with your training. And so you may have felt like, and I've always felt like, oh, well, I didn't get all the training in. I should cram. I didn't do that stuff last week. Too late. The only thing you do now is blow it. You can't cram it in now. You are where you are. And so make sure that you're rested and tapered, and that you're physically at your best from where you are right now. Like, this is where you are. And once I embraced that as an athlete with my coaches, it was like this amazing, it was so amazing. I'm like, I got to taper. I love tapering, because you've done what you can do. And now you've got that extra time really to prepare your gear, to get some extra sleep, to spend some time with your family. It's a beautiful week. So embrace it and enjoy it, because cramming now really will actually not help your challenge for the weekend.
Agreed. So as you think about your training this week, own that mentality. That is the secret to success. Not doing more intervals, not cramming, as Rebecca says. The secret to your success is tapering. So in every workout, rest is best, right? If you're even doubtful, just do half the workout. Cut the power number down. Take the day off. You have total permission to do that. You could take the whole week off if you really wanted to, and it wouldn't change your fitness performance. Your muscle memory might not be as good, so you do want to do some riding. but understand any doubt, any feelings of fatigue, take an extra easy day, take the day off. You want to err in the rest side. And some of you, what's going to happen is you came through the weekend with some fatigue and you're going to dump it. You're pretty fit. The more fit you are, the faster you recover from training. You might find by like Tuesday, Wednesday, or just taking another day off early in the week or an easy day, you're going to be like, wow, I'm really starting to feel ready to roll, right? So here's something that I've just learned from the beginning. Never do your race early, right? Do not race early. What often happens when your training's going well and it's pretty deep and you start to taper and you get 3-4 days in your taper, you're going to go out on a ride and you're going to be like, man, I can just smash today. And then you do. And that's not what we want to do. We want to hold back those horses, and to your challenge day, you're going to need every last bit of energy. Kind of the big weekend, we really emptied the tank, right? We emptied your battery, we drained everything down. Now we want that all restoring this week. This week is about restoring that performance, letting that battery fully recharge, topping off your glycogen and your glucose and all of the things that are going to make you perform well. So just err on the side of rest. And that's pretty cool when it's like, hey, this week's coaching is do less, don't do more, don't go harder. But yeah, for a lot of us, it's actually pretty hard. It really is pretty hard. Fill the time with your plan, get your equipment ready, get your planning ready so that your last 48 hours leading into the event are as much low stress as you can make them. Mm-hmm. That's training. That's all you need to do this week. Don't overthink it. Hold back the horses. Do not race early. Wait to challenge day.
Yeah, and if you feel like you're that horse just trying to bust down the stall by about Thursday, then you're doing it right. That's awesome. So like that is a good feeling.
Keep that horse in the barn for a couple more days.
Totally. Yeah.
All right, let's talk day before.
Yeah, day before. Woohoo! Okay, so day before, you're really gonna hone in. You've already laid out your gear, you've got your plan, you've got your bags, I like to use just sort of mesh little like baskets, that my stuff is in, and like line my car up like that. So think about how you're gonna set up your aid station, like how physically, like what will be in the back of your car or your cooler, or if you're setting up a tent or whatever it is. Go find the place that's going to be. Make sure it's safe. Make sure it's out of traffic if you're on a public road. So plan where it's going to be. Go out there and scout it and make sure you like the spot and that there's parking available and all that good stuff. Check the weather, double check your list. I like to physically, again, do a visual of all my stuff. I put it in the car the night before. I put a note on the refrigerator if there's stuff that I'm supposed to grab from inside the refrigerator. And then I really determine, like I kind of already talked about this, but what is my primary stuff, what's on my body and what's on my bike while I'm actually riding, because you've got all your awesome stuff in your aid station. You've got it all organized. Where you're going to park your car, how it's going to be set up. But then what's exactly on your bike and your body? And obviously it's a climbing challenge, so you want to go light. And, we were talking about, nutrition per hour, and you can calculate in some of your calories can be consumed at your aid station. So you may not need to carry, a ton of stuff. So for me, last year, Everesting, I had one water bottle on my bike and 250 to 300 calories per lap. And I knew what those were going to be. I alternated a little bit of the types of food each time, so I didn't get flavor fatigue. But I knew I got to the top of the climb, I swapped my water bottle. I had all my water bottles actually preloaded. So some had Roctane, some had plain water with just light electrolytes, some were totally plain water, some were Red Bull mixed with water, and I labeled them with tape. So I could just grab what I wanted or say to Greg, oh, grab me one of those Red Bull bottles. And so I quick grab the bottle, grab a few hundred calories and off I go. And really, transitions. And I learned this from 24-hour racing, where you go in a circle for 24 hours on about a 20-mile course, mountain biking. If you can make your rest stops sort of, Formula One style NASCAR, and you're getting in like zzz, 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 and get back on, because the clock doesn't stop. And I find most people, you can only ride as fast as you can ride. Where most people can save a lot of time and efficiency is in their aid station. So, line your water bottles up. They're already full, if you've got enough of them. So you don't really have to do much once you get up there. You just swap your food, grab your jacket, and go on your next lap. For me, what's on my bike, of course, there's trail tools to change a flat, fix a flat. You've got to have that. If in the middle of your climb you get a flat, it's just part of the deal. Because remembering you're bringing the kitchen sink, but it's either at the top or the bottom of the hill or the middle of the hill. It may not be exactly where you are. So still treat it as a ride. If you've got to, need your food, your trail tools, your clothing, make your on the bike decision based on the weather and what your ride's going to look like, what time of day you're starting. For me, cold was something that I had to deal with last year. And so I'm going to actually change my bike this year. I'm going to put a little frame bag in there because I had nowhere to put my down jacket last year. I had to just tie it around my handlebars for the going up, because I hadn't figured I was going to need something that warm and that big. And so, yeah, this is all that's on my bike and my body, or like clothing, tools, water bottle, Garmin. And that's really it. And then everything else is in your rest stop and your aid station. Anything else there, Tim?
Yeah, what's important, you said it, is check the weather, right? You have 24 hours. Usually the day before is a great day to get. So here's a bit of advice. Check the hourly weather for 24 hours because things change, right? Yeah. And even if the weather's like, hey, it's going to be, the lows overnight are 50 degrees or 55 degrees, like where I am right now, I'm still bringing clothes for 25.
Well, you think of wind chill. If you're descending at 50 degrees, the wind chill is a lot colder than 50.
Point is, you know what's coming. You can use that recent weather to make a pretty good plan, but don't count on it being that either. Be prepared beyond that also. That to me, is a consistent little mistake I see athletes make. Mm-hmm. And you think the weather's going to be this, or the weather said that, and suddenly it's sideways hail and 10-mile-an-hour chill, or 20-mile-an-hour wind going down in your chill. So just make sure you use the weather to plan what you're going to ride and be on the bike, but have your backup stuff, a range of stuff in the number of people last year I saw talk about it after.
Well, a climbing challenge is so unique because you're getting really hot on the way up and you're getting sweaty, and then you turn around and go downhill. And so it's actually harder than dressing for like a traditional bike ride in the 50s, because that would be more undulating. You're getting hot, you're getting cold, you're venting. Whereas this is like, you're getting all sweaty, then you're getting all freezing, then you're getting sweaty, then you're getting freezing.
Agreed. And I think that's what you should be prepared for. I mean, that's a challenge. And I know we have a question, but let's answer it after the next couple of slides, because we're going to sort of answer it about what if you're doing much shorter laps. There's a lot of people looking for a good time that are doing shorter laps. That does change the dynamic some, because you're not going downhill as it's cold. A chance you're shorter, you're going downhill faster.
Yeah.
Probably a fair.
Yeah. I mean, my lap last year was very conveniently up and down was about an hour. So I could take one water bottle and this many calories because my laps were about an hour. So that made my planning really easy. If you're doing shorter laps, you may be taking half water bottles, you may be, doing something a little bit different based on the length of your climb.
Yeah. And the question's about stops. So let's answer it. Let's talk about it a little bit now when we have it, because it's really a great question when we think about the timing of things. So Beth Collins asks, a lot of us doing much shorter laps, like less than a half a mile to a mile. So 50 to 100 laps. So speak how much time to stop between the stops. Don't. What I would do, Beth, is compartmentalize those into groups. And my mind tends to want to put things in time groups. How many laps per hour is that? And then start thinking about it as that group, or maybe how many laps per 2 hours, right? And if that's okay, well, 20 laps per 2 hours, whatever your number is, I would think about those group of that sub-compartmentalized group of laps. I'm going to get to that number, then it's rest stop number one.
Yeah.
You're asking a really good question that I see people, and excuse the term, the good news about, like, when Rebecca was doing hers and I saw it, and it was like, okay, that's X amount of time up. It was about 35 minutes up and about 25 minutes down, or maybe eventually got more like 40 minutes up and 20 minutes down, but it was always around an hour. So I knew in between she really didn't have a choice, right? She was committed to that, staying and not stopping. The downside of a bunch of short laps, it gets kind of easy as you fatigue out, to get that short lap and just want to stop each time. That will add up so fast and crush your time. So always think about it in blocks. 20 laps an hour, fine. That's my one bottle, one lap, one mega lap, right?
Yeah.
That's your mega lap, and commit to that mentally or you're going to stop. When it comes to the actual number of stops, less is more. Every 3 hours, that's a pretty good number. If you're carrying enough, and if you have your bottles laid out like Rebecca, you just blow by your car and grab, and toss one bottle on the ground and pick up one bottle. I mean, my mountain bike race days, we were tablers. Like, I would get you remember, I'm sure Rebecca raced back in these days when this was the thing you did. You got an old like card table or something like that, and you hit it. You didn't hide it. You put it on the course in the woods, and you stacked your water bottles on. And every time you went around, you threw one under the table and you grabbed one off the table, right? So things like that keep you moving are very important. Plan it, program it into your brain, that mega lap, right? If you start stopping every lap only 5 minutes, it'll be more time than you can imagine before you know it.
Yeah, and I like that discipline because it gives you something to look forward to. You're like, I'm gonna, every 3 hours. I think you did it for me. It was every 4 hours last year.
Every 4.
Stop for 10 minutes and get some solid food. And so I kind of look forward to that, that little like milestone of like, I'm gonna take 10 minutes and at the 4 hours, 8 hours, and kind of did it that way. And it was really kind of gave me a little mini goal to look forward to.
And you guys, and I did that with Rebecca because I know how, like, her calorie burn rate, and she obviously has a really big endurance engine, so she's not the average human being there. Think about your calorie burn per hour, right? You should be stopping. One of the things you really want to think about, in this idea of when you're stopping is, I don't know, maybe around 1,200 calories for most of you. You don't want to go, once you start creeping up to like 2,000 calories without a stop. You might be taking enough food on the bike, but you're going to end up with problems of variety. You're going to need the break. You're starting at that stage. If you're even though you're putting in 250 to 300 calories, you probably you're always falling a little bit behind. You aren't staying perfect. It just doesn't work that way when you start translating food calories and what you're burning. So I would say the stop, Beth, your idea of about every 3 hours probably would fit very nicely into about 1,200 to maybe 1,400 calories based on where you're going. So that's pretty nice. If you're a serious endurance racer and have done longer and you have a greater efficiency, 4 hours, maybe even 5 might be a number. But again, if you're going to do that, err more on the 3 hour side and just keep your stops. I mean, enjoy the stop, shut down, eat your other food, do your other stuff, but just be careful not to make them too long. All right, let's talk about training the day before. And I don't have a training tip. You have a plan. I've already said rest your way in, right? Here's what I want to talk about: your training, kind of your mental training to get ready. So, you have a plan A. I'm going to give you a little truth right now. Plan A probably ain't going to happen, right? It's just the nature of these type of events. If you're really doing an Everest, or it really is hard to be like, wow, this is all going to work out. And what I see athletes do, when you think about the 3 things you're going to need for success here, you're going to need the physical fitness. You've been working on that. You're going to need accurate nutrition. We're actually going to talk about that more in a couple of slides here. And the third part is you need the right mentality. And this is, one of Rebecca's real strengths, and I know she's going to give you tips here. You've got to have that right mentality. one of the things when athletes do something like an Everest and they build off such a cool little plan, right? Where you got cool little sliders and you know you're exactly going to do exactly 7 hours and 26 minutes. That plan isn't going to come true. You're going to have an off plan, meaning you might be a little faster. You might be a little slow. It might be different. So one of the things that I really encourage people to do to mentally prepare, and this sounds like I'm joking a little bit when I say have a plan A and a B and a C, but I mean it quite literally. Go into your Everest challenge, right? And find out what's the slowest lap time with slow rests you can do and still make your challenge in 24 hours, right? Then look at your plan and look at that slowest, A, C, right? And pick something in the middle. So this way you have knowledge in your head. You know what your climb time needs to be. You know what your descent time is. You know what your mega lap targets are for A, B, and C, because that'll help you not panic when something goes wrong. A lot of times when you just have that plan A and something goes wrong, you know what most people do? And I bet you Rebecca's seen this 1,000 times and like me has done it a couple of times. You overreact. You start chasing a time frame that you're not going to catch, and then you end up blowing yourself up. You skip some rest. You lose track of your food. You make mistakes, right, if you don't have that plan. So know the range of things you can perform. Your A is your peak plan. That's what you're absolutely going for and totally mentally committed to. Then you have a B and C if things go wrong. You break a spoke. You get back-to-back flats. And I know some of this happened to somebody in training, and this is something to be aware of. Somebody steals your water cooler at the bottom of your climb. I mean, things can go wrong. So just have that in mind that mentally, you know, oh man, something went really bad. I'm checking down a step. I can check down a step. And then that's what I mean by program your plan. You have those check downs, you know what you're doing, right? Then look at each one of these. So it's really important you understand what I'm about to say. Build your nutrition plan to A, B, and C. Because here's something people don't think about. If you had a 7-hour plan, which would be really, this is a half, I think, that we had here. But let's say you're out there like, I'm going to make this in 10 hours. And you're really going to be like, I'm going to crush this. And you have 10 cool little bags of your 1 hour food. Here's going to be eating hour one. And you have your 10 little bags. And then 5 hours in, you get a triple flat and it puts you 2 hours behind. What happens to your little food plan, right? Out the window. So plan your food, plan your nutrition, plan all those things really to your B and C. Because you don't care if you end up with a little extra, take it home and eat it on your next couple of rides. If it was bacon, like Rebecca had a bag of bacon in her pitcher, eat it for breakfast. But plan, build your nutrition plan to your B and C. Don't make the mistake of just bringing enough nutrition. Somebody did that last year and really paid the price for it. Bring enough for your
I mean, nobody wants to plan for something not to go perfectly, but honestly, tons of times things don't go as planned. And so if you're actually ready for it, it's not as devastating. Like you get a flat, you break your wheel. Okay, I'm going to change to my new wheels, or I've got my other bike. If you plan, my friend in adventure racing, Robin, she called it splatter control. And she's like, what is going to hit the fan at some point. So you're just ready for it. And then it's not as devastating. It's not a deal breaker. It's actually just, a little obstacle that you plan for and you're going to get over.
Couldn't agree more. And I think, and it's so important, you guys, you listen to the expertise and wisdom that you're hearing here. It's not a plan to fail. It's not, Tim said, can't make my A goal. It's understanding that by having those pieces in place and doing everything, you're actually more likely to have success. So that's how,
it's not a negative. It's actually preparing for, and it's like bringing an umbrella in the rain. You bring it and then it's not going to rain. You're not going to actually need it.
Exactly right. Yep. That's right. I'll tell you what, the day before the challenge, I'm going to wash my bike perfectly because that means we'll all be riding in the rain.
There you go.
That's right. All right, let's talk about the day of. So Rebecca, where's your motivation the day of?
Day of, actually, what I love about the way the Giddy Up Challenge is executed, I get really nervous on race days when there are a lot of, just with people and energy and all this stuff, and you're at a start line and everybody's elbowing, and the race start is going to be really intense. And anyone who knows me, I'm not a super fast starter. And so what I really loved about Giddy Up last year is it's on your terms, and it's all the best things about racing, of like setting a goal, doing this, we're connecting as a community, but there's not going to be a bunch of people next to you elbowing you and trying to push you over and get the whole shot. So enjoy that like you've set a time, and treat it though as it is a real race. Set your time, plan it out, get up, have your breakfast, do that kind of discipline, because you'll be happy for it, instead of being like, I think I'll start at 9:30, maybe 10. Like really set it up and have some discipline, because that will help you. And again, we're talking about controlling the controllables. Have your gears already set out, you're checking it multiple times throughout the week, and then race morning, you're putting on your superhero costume, really, and put that on, be excited, be proud of yourself for the work that you've done to get there, because a lot of people are scared to take on challenges, but you guys aren't. So be proud of yourself, celebrate because you got to the start line. And then, like Tim said, follow your plan, follow your nutrition plan. I know we've talked a lot about nutrition, but I do feel like in endurance events, it is one of the places where I see a ton of really good athletes who are perfectly capable blow it because they just don't eat anything. And so make sure you've got a plan and you follow it. Nutrition is not the magic pill that's going to shoot you up the hill, but it's certainly, if you don't do it well, it certainly can be the thing that sidelines you, and you got to put gas in the car, basically. So and then the other really big thing that I find a lot of people in endurance events is they don't pace themselves properly. And this goes back to that story, is talking about being at the start line of a race like Leadville or something like that, and 4,000 people, probably 3,500 of them are going out too fast at the beginning, and they're just burning all their matches. They're building lactate, they're getting into a hole that they is hard to get out of. And true story with Leadville is I've won it 4 times. I was never in the lead until at least mile 50. And so it's all about your pace and staying consistent more than like shooting out really hot. And Tim can talk about the physiology of that. Going super fast in the first quarter of your challenge actually doesn't really do you any favors. It actually burns too many matches, so that then the half and the 3/4 and full way through, you can't come back from that. And so when we set our pacing for last year, for example, my best time up the hill that I climbed was 28 minutes. And Tim is like, okay, we're going to set your pacing at 40-minute uphill laps and 20 minutes down. And I'm like, 40 minutes? That's way too slow. And I was like, dude, like, okay, Tim, you know what you're talking about. And actually he was spot on. And my first few laps were, I held back. I'm like, okay, I don't want to do 30-minute laps. I'm gonna, if I got a couple minutes under 40 or 35, and I was like, okay, I've got a few minutes in the bank, but we actually really set a kind of a power governor more than time. And he's like, don't go above this many watts. And it totally paid off. I had consistent laps, and I really thought he was being too conservative with the timing. And so, figure out that time, like Tim said, and pace yourself. It's way more fun to start conservative and then finish strong than it is to start too fast and blow up. Everybody knows what that feels like. So I kind of have this 25% thing. So I use this in Leadville. The first 25% of your challenge, hold back. And we do this when we do our FTP test. Hold it back a couple percent. And then at 25% of the way through, evaluate and be like, okay, I can go up 1%. Halfway through, 50%, evaluate again. And then of course, the last quarter, it's leave it all on the trail. But it's way better to do that sort of a progression than the other way around, which is no fun. So be strict with your pacing, even if it feels too easy early on. Use that time to just enjoy the scenery, look around. And then another tactic that I use is to go easy on the hard and hard on the easy. And what I mean by this is you can only go so fast up a hill. But there are other places where you can make up time, like in the aid station or on the descent if you're confident. And I'll go back to Leadville again. The amount of calories and energy and candles that you burn climbing your hill 20 or 30 seconds faster is a big price to pay versus can you be 30 seconds faster in the rest stop? Can you be a little more efficient with your gear so you're not spending 30 seconds looking for that water bottle? Get your time in the places where it's easy to get, because if you burn too many physical matches on your hill part of it, it's just too expensive. And so in Leadville, again, for an example for that is I'd climb how I'd climb. I was never the super fastest climber, but over the top of the climb, I'd put a couple pedal strokes in, pedal on the downhill, really find my rhythm on the descent. And you get a lot more time there than you would by trying to go faster uphill. So I call it also the spaces in between. Think about the places that aren't your actual climb where you save time and energy, and that's really in your rest stops and your efficiency and your descending and your turnaround. And then, yeah, it's not just about ride time. So that's tied exactly into the same thing. The clock is ticking, and so be more efficient in the easy places where you can gain back those few minutes here and there. And then this part is, when the body's tired, which it will be, the mind takes over. And this is where the real magic happens, I think. This is where really, truly good athletes really shine. And I'll tell you, on paper, I'm not that special of an athlete, but mentally, I can hang in there. And a lot of it is mantras. It's the language that I say to myself. That, no, one of them is somebody told my first eco challenge many years ago, which was a week-long race through Australia. My friend Kathy, mentor, said, no matter how good or bad you feel, it won't last. And so endurance events are a roller coaster. You're going to feel like, Superman or woman 1 minute, and then 10 minutes later, you're down in one of those troughs, but it is a flow. So when you're feeling really good, and this is where don't forget to eat, don't forget to drink, don't get cocky. And when you're feeling really bad, same thing, you will come out of it. And so knowing that it's a roller coaster is another one. Another mantra that someone gave me at that same eco challenge is you can run across the hot coals or walk across them. It's going to hurt. We know it's going to hurt. It's hard. You're signing up for a really hard challenge. And I know you can do it. You've prepared. I'm excited for all of you. But also remember, the quicker you get it done, the sooner you're like toasting that Sierra Nevada at the end, you're high-fiving, you're hashtagging me, Giddy Up For Good, Rebecca, this is how my climb went. Just get it done, be efficient with it. The party is at the finish line. Enjoy the experience, but get it done. And then we celebrate. And then the last one here, you guys know my nickname is Queen of Pain, and people always ask me about that. They're like, why do you want to hurt yourself? Like, has this negative connotation. But the hard things that we do, they're actually our teachers. When you touch a hot stove as a kid, you learn, oh, don't touch the hot stove. When we fall down off our bike, mountain biking, we learn, okay, I need to do that a little differently next time. And so while you're in your pain tunnel, and my friend Celine Yeager, I don't like to call it a pain cave, because actually there is an end. There is light at the end of it. You get through it. It's not a tunnel. You don't just go into this black hole and never come out. Or it's not a cave, it's a tunnel. So when you're in your pain tunnel, just think about, what am I learning about myself? And sometimes I get kind of cerebral and I think about my friends. I think about why I'm out there. I think about Coach Tim. I look at the views, but I really feel like being out there and working hard physically is a really cool place to learn about yourself as an athlete and a human, because there's not any distractions. You're basically having this conversation with yourself. and you're getting to know yourself. And so in those dark moments, in that tunnel, think about your why. Think about why you signed up for Giddy Up Challenge. Think about the fundraising that we're doing to get more people into the outdoors and protect the outdoors. Think about Coach Tim and all the stuff that he's told you. You'll have a lot of time to really, use that. And it's a beautiful place to be. Not a lot of people can go into the pain tunnel, but you guys can, and you've elected to do it voluntarily. And there's really cool light at the end of it. So embrace the pain, embrace the process of it, and know that you're gonna come through the weekend and have some really amazing stories to tell. And Tim likes to say, write your own story for this weekend. Make your ride, your run, what you want it to be. You have absolute control of that. So that's my day of motivation. And I want you to know too, you guys, I'm going to be connected with you. Use the hashtag Giddy Up For Good. I'm spending all day Saturday and Monday engaging socially and watching your rides and looking for you. And I'll be sending you some of these mantras along the way as well.
Awesome. It's funny, as I turn to my science slide, the 3 things that are going to make your success, I just said them, right? Reliance on your physical training. That's in the bank. Your nutrition strategy, we're about to talk about that. Your mental attitude. Rebecca has a statement on the screen here: when the body is tired, the mind takes over. I have one that's very similar that I preach to a lot of athletes. Where your head goes, your body will follow. You'll be surprised and amazing that if you can commit your mentality to things, what your body will do. Oftentimes, though, we reverse that. We don't commit. We can't talk our brain. As a matter of fact, we have too many voices talking up there. We don't listen to the one that's telling us we can do it, we can get there, we can go faster. So when you think about those 3 aspects, we've talked about your training for 8 weeks. You've trained, I've done some videos, you've been on some science Stokes, you've done the work. Okay, that's in the bank, you're tapering in. Your mentality really is going to be such a big overarching driver of your success here, because you have to commit to the success of getting it right. And that is an inspirational message. It is a message that says, aspire, do something better than you think you're capable of. And I want you to rise to that moment. Part of that is having discipline in that message, not just interpreting it in random abandonment and charging up the hill on your bike. The really great athletes take that mindset that when they can put it together with their disciplines, right, and lead with their head, their brain, their mental focus, the body follows amazingly well, and you do crazy things. So the other 2 aspects.
I'll share one super fast thing. I was asked after the Iceland expedition, we did all these interviews, I crossed Iceland on a fat bike in winter recently. And he kept asking, like, what was your most essential piece of equipment, this, that, and the other. And I just kept saying my attitude. Like, no other piece of equipment I could bring could help you as much as the attitude that you bring. And it's not going to be perfect. It's going to ebb and flow, but you have control of what's going on up here. And so whatever mantra you need, whatever you need to tape on your top tube or right on your arm, or whatever tools you're going to use, bring those, because your attitude is your most important piece of equipment that you're going to bring this weekend.
Couldn't agree more. Then you translate that into 2 key things. And I'm going to tell you right now, these are the 2 things that you need to have the discipline and the focus, because these are the 2 things that will lead you to failure. So we want to minimize these, right? We want to not make this mistake. One is pacing. And it's funny, Rebecca and I develop slides independently. It's part of our back and forth. And you just know, you can see the different levels of experience here coming back to the same solution. Pace, pace, pace. Start slow, end hard. For everybody who's either did our winter base camp with us, or the bridge plan in between, or this plan, how many times have you seen me write progressive aerobic endurance to the point where like, oh my God, can't he just call it endurance? And it's like, no, because all that is training about pacing and discipline and progression. And that's the thing here. If you're going to put together your A plan and you're going to go for your A plan, do the first 25%, really great point, great way to track it. at that number. Then if you feel good, it's real. Then if you feel like you can exceed it, you're probably going to be able to. I will absolutely guarantee you right now, every single one of, I shouldn't say that, 99.9% of you will feel awesome on that first lap or two. And you're going to be like, wow, I've got this. I'm going to crush it. I know I had a 20-minute time goal, but I'm going to do it in 17 minutes because I just feel great. Chances are that's going to come back and haunt you.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Do the first couple at 20. And if you're still like, I feel great, okay, then increase a little bit at a time so that you're pacing into that strength.
It's like you're cooking like cayenne pepper or whatever. You're like, oh, I'm going to put a bunch of spice, just a little at a time. If you're going to, you know, push your pace, pretend like it's hot sauce and you don't want to put too much in at once.
We're going to have to build a whole dialogue on that. All right, a little bit hotter, a little bit hotter. Ow, it burns. That's because that's what's going to happen. But that's how you want to do it. It's all right. And do you understand that? I mean, I cannot tell you the number of times I've explained that to athletes and they look at me and go, okay, coach, I got it. And then they go out and on the first lap, they crush it. On the first climb, they crush it. Just because you know what it is? You're just full of adrenaline.
Yeah.
You're ready.
You're excited. Yeah.
And all your body's going to feel good. Everything's going to feel better than it actually is. That adrenaline is masking it, right? You just feel better. So it suckers you. It romances you into overperformance. Just be patient. Wear that adrenaline off in the first 25%. If the good feelings are still there, they're real, and you'll actually finish faster doing that.
That's why I like that 25% thing. It gives you time, like you said, to burn off the adrenaline and to settle into like, okay, this is good. Yeah, a little conservative with the hot sauce at the beginning.
The hot sauce pacing. Copyright that. Trademark. Rebecca and Tim, Science and Stoke. Second thing is nutrition. So I'm going to go into a couple of slides on nutrition here and just give you some overarching, but I'm going to tell you a truth about nutrition. And I'm going to do a little bit of myth busting here. And here's the thing, right? Nutrition is not a magic solution. There is no super secret nutrition diet that unlocks your performance and adds 50 watts to your threshold or doubles your sustainability over time. It doesn't really work like that. To be honest with you, I see so much BS going on in nutrition these days, and people want that to be true. They do want nutrition to have this magical effect. It doesn't work that way. But on the same side, while all the people are reading those articles and talking about keto this and no fat that or whatever they're doing, they're still struggling or failing in their nutrition because it is the fundamentals of nutrition that make the difference. Not the fancy diet that somebody's selling, not the food in a box, not space food, not other stuff. It comes down to just good blocking and tackling. For those who fail this challenge, most of the people who fail this challenge will have failed because they don't do their nutrition right. They've probably trained pretty well. They're probably going to do okay in their pacing discipline because that kind of autocorrects pretty quickly. But the nutrition will be the failure. So let's talk about that a little bit, right? I'm going to give you some overarching goals. Just some general things, but I'm going to drill into this a little more. And then Rebecca's going to give thoughts and feedback about her stuff as we go. So a couple of things. The night before, people talk about carb loading. You know, I'm going to carb load. I'm going to pound down all my pasta and stuff like that. Carb loading doesn't work that way. And that actually will have no positive impact on your performance. Don't get me wrong. Don't eat carbs for 5 straight days leading in. You're going to have a negative. Eat, steak and just steak the night before, you're probably going to have a negative. Eat a normal meal. And yes, target some extra carbs, particular complex carbs. Just avoid white starch, flour, things like that, right? But don't overthink it. Good calories, good size meal, not too big. I see people who eat so big the night before, they end up with GI problems and problems the next morning before they even start. Because your body is very, it wants to have its own rhythm. It always wants homeostasis, right? So where there's some variability to that, it's stochastic, meaning there's a pattern in that variability. And if you suddenly introduce something new, like I normally eat 500 calories for dinner or 800 calories for dinner, depending on your size and your exercise or whatever, 1,000 calories. And then suddenly you eat 2,500 calories for dinner, your body has to deal with that. And it's not normal. So it goes off homeostasis and it's going to do things to get back to homeostasis that you don't want. So a normal general meal. Prehydrate well, but not too well. I know somebody who in last year's challenge actually ended up having to go to emergency care because they drank too much, and Rebecca does too, right? They prehydrated too much. You can get in a lot of trouble prehydrating too much, right? Really, all you need to perform well, assuming you have a normally well-hydrated diet. If you're continually dehydrated, then that's a problem. You only need about 500 milliliters extra about 4 or 5 hours before, and you're good. And here's why. Right? You have to think about your body as like a swimming pool. And I bet you a lot of people here either have a swimming pool or have experience with a swimming pool. And you have to have chlorine in your swimming pool if you want your water to stay nice and clear, right? And to keep nice and clear water, and you have to have the right balance of chlorine. But the reality is there's multiple things that affect that. Add a bunch more water, put your garden hose in your pool, and add another 500 gallons of water, the chlorine level gets too low. Because you've now added a whole bunch more water to the same amount of chlorine in the system. Now you actually have too low chlorine, your water goes green, right? You could just let all the chlorine evaporate out, not change your water. The chlorine is too low. And the other thing can happen, even though it's more rare, you could just dump in a whole bunch of chlorine. Now it's too high, right? So the water's clear, but when you jump in there, it burns and your skin turns red, you know? So the reality is, think about all those electrolytes and other proteins and things that are happening within your system. They're the chlorine. And when you have dramatic change, they're the chlorine in your swimming pool. When you have dramatic changes in the water level, you're messing with that chlorine level. And remember, your body's going to want to find homeostasis. When you knock it off that level, it's going to do things to get back there. And often those things are defense mechanisms, which will actually be shutting down your body. So put a whole lot of water in the system, really reduce the percentage of that chlorine, those electrolytes, your body starts shutting down. It doesn't want you doing anything to take in more water. So the reality is that's when it comes to food and water, don't get crazy.
Yeah.
Nice big extra meal, right? But not crazy big. Some extra complex carbs. Switch a potato for a sweet potato. Eat a whole grain pasta. Go to a couscous. There's plenty of things you can do, but don't eat like, here's my 7th plate of pasta dinner, right? And then you're heavy all morning. You're totally bloated because you feel all those carbs, they're going to bind with water in your system. So normal and normal, right? When it comes to your Giddy Up Challenge nutrition, start everything I'm about to show you 15 minutes before. I'll explain what that means. We have some general goals, and I'm going to get deeper into the carb and calorie goals. A great trick, eat heavy to light. As you get enough food in you, it's going to get harder to eat. That just is going to happen in any long-term event. So you need things that are variety, you need some savory and other things. But the reality is, eat your heavier foods early, the ones that take a little longer to digest. Your system's going to have the energy to digest a little better. That swimming pool is going to be better balanced. Things will happen better. So eat your heavier. Like if you have peanut butter and jelly in your pocket, in a sandwich, if you have heavy bars, if you've made things like that, to where later in the rides, you might be wanting eating cubes and lighter foods and your stops and stuff like that, to probably your last hour or two, that's when you're like, you're surviving on gel, on that semi-liquid diet. If you start out with heavy liquid fuel early, I'm doing 300 calories a bottle, all these liquid fuels, high carbs, high liquid fuels, that'll get you in trouble. And we'll talk about why. And finally, don't forget, Rebecca does a great job of laying this out. Just have a variety of different foods, because your body under this strain, 4, 5, 6 hours in, you're going to be tired of eating whatever you planned on eating. And having some bacon, having some pizza, having some different types of rice cakes. And me, like when I start to struggle to eat, I need fruit and a variety of fruit. It's the weirdest thing. Like I like fruit anyway, but I'm a I'll eat grainy kind of bars and things like that. But once I'm totally exhausted with food, bananas, apples, oranges, it's like the only stuff I can get into me. Everybody finds their variety. So let's talk targeting it. And again, don't overthink this. This isn't a secret. No, you can read the back of any package, which I'd rather have you look up like foods content because it's whole foods, it's fruits, it's meats, it's whatever. And you can figure this out and make it work. You don't need to buy, you don't need to get too fancy with it to make this work. So the day of your pre-ride meal, 2 to 3 hours before, and you don't even really need to eat that much before from the calories, but you do want to eat that a couple hours before to make sure you have gastric emptying. Now, in a challenge like this, where you might have a bathroom at your stop or whatever, it might not be that big of a deal, but just know that that's part of the process. You want to get that full breakfast meal in. And the reason I say that is sometimes people are like, well, I planned on being on my start at 6 a.m. Does that mean I have to get up at 3 a.m. to get my meal in? Well, that's decisions for you to make. But like in that situation, if I had a bathroom at my stop and I wasn't worried about it, I might sleep a little later and eat an hour before. So understand it's a balance, but you still want that meal. You want it to be 400 to 800 calories. You want about 7 to 100 grams of carbs with some proteins and fat, low to moderate, not zero. You want to slow down. You want to use the small amount of protein and fats to slow down that digestive rate. About 15, remember, start 15 minutes before, but you can do it as much as 30. Another 70 to 125 calories, 20 to 50 grams of carbs. Just make sure you're starting off well topped up. I see a lot of people who know I should eat every hour. So their first bite is 1 hour into the event, right? That's a mistake in a lot of different ways. So
you start at hour 0. You actually start before the ride. Yeah. Mine is 0.
Before. Yeah, that's exactly what I want everybody thinking. You're totally right. And then per hour, you want to target 200 to 300 grams, which we've talked about practicing, and 60 to 90 grams of carbs. And that really depends on your weight and how fast you're going. Maybe you're resting a little extra, but if you're in that range, you're going to do really well. Low to moderate fats. Your body does not burn protein and fat, your body does not burn protein as fuel, except when your body's already in crisis. So I know you see keto and you see people talk about that it works. And it can for the right athletes and the right pacing if you're very steady pace over extreme longs of time, but this isn't that, right? And if you're burning proteins as a fuel source, your body is in crisis. Your neoglycogenesis is the metabolic factor, and you're literally eating your own muscle because your body's that starved. So you don't want to be there, right? That's what we'd like to avoid as a whole. So you want to be doing this every hour. The way I recommend you do it is 15-minute increments, meaning a bite, a drink, another bite, a half a bar, a drink. And I'm going to show you how all this adds up here in slides. Trust me, there is no secret. This is the secret. And then people are like, no, Tim, but what about all? This is the secret. This is how your body uses fuel. And if everybody stayed within these parameters, and whether you ate goo waffles or a banana or a slice of pizza, even though the pizzas might get a little high in protein and fats, which it's okay to go back to low to moderate because you're going to slow down that energy consumption. You're going to slow down the way your body brings water into the system. But that's all good. But you don't want high fats. You don't want high protein foods. It's going to give you problems. There's the simple magic answer. So when you put some of these things together, right? And I used, obviously we partner with GU and Rebecca, GU sponsors both our companies, but also we have access to a lot of their food. So we're versed in using them, and it's a good selection. They have their waffles, which are now Boone waffles. I should have used the new picture, but like if you take a waffle, that's 22 grams of carbs and 150 calories. And here's really the science secret. You're going to say, Tim, well, how do you know? I read the back of the package. It really is that simple. You guys, it is. And you can look it up on their website. Chews, though, here's what's tricky when you read a package. So they're 20 grams of carbs and 80 calories. It's right on the back side of their chews, but that's actually per serving, which there's 2 servings in here. So it's really 40 grams of carbs and 160 calories if you eat the whole thing, which on the bike, off the bike, eat the whole thing is my system. So I have to think about that way. Their drink mix, the GU drink mix, is 60 grams of carbs and 250 calories for 2 scoops in a bottle. And a banana is 22 grams of carbs and 9, just to give you a basis, and you could look all this up. So here's what you think about when you're planning, right? And one of the things, and Rebecca is like the most planned athlete in the sense that I've ever met. She's got her food out for like 1 hour. Like, here's my bag, here's my block, here's my bundle of food for an hour, right? When you're thinking about yours, that's a great way to do it. You know, get big bags, right? And pre-think it. Even if you're just visually looking at, well, what's in first hour, what's in 2 hour, because if I was to set out, right, and I'm going to show you this, how you can get in trouble very easily. My target, if let's say I'm about 65 kilos, my target, 250 calories, 75 grams of carbs an hour. So I have, I'm going to eat 1 waffle, but I'm even going to cut my Roctane in half. Remember here, it's 60 grams of carbs, 250 calories for 2 scoops. So I'm just going to use 1 scoop. So I'm getting 30 grams of carbs and 125 calories. And during that ride, I'm going to eat a banana also, 22 grams of carbs and 90 calories. So I have to look around my camera here. I need to move that. So if you see, it's 74 grams of carbs. So, so I'm pretty much right on carbs, right? I've done this well. But look how many extra calories I'm taking in this mix. So I know right off the bat, for me, too many sugars, too many mixed sugars in this. I need to translate some of that back, reduce some, because the mixed sugars are carbs, fructose, sucrose, and it's the best way to do it because your body burns each type of sugar separately. But that also means they're all going to be high carb. The more sugar, the faster that. I'm sorry, that means they're going to be high calorie, the more calories that you're going to see. So this looks like it would be a good, easy blend for an hour, right? And the carbs are right, but you're taking in a lot of calories, and eventually that's going to ball up your system. You're going to end up with some potential GI. GI is gastrointestinal tract problems. Usually is more from too many carbs. If you keep piling those extra calories, eventually that becomes a problem too. Now, what
I want to mention, because B talked about, your TrainingPeaks you're burning more than this. And a lot of people think, oh, I'm burning 500 or 600 per hour, so I need to eat that much. Your body actually can't absorb it. And so the problem with putting more calories in, you might think, oh, it'll help me offset what I'm burning. But in endurance events, you're always going to be in a calorie deficit, and putting more in is actually detrimental because your stomach can't handle it. And that's what Tim's talking about. You just end up getting a big ball in your stomach, and then you can't do anything about it. If that does happen, plain water is the only way to go. Sipping on plain water to try to dilute it, to get it to go down, but best to actually preventative and don't pack in too many calories, because more doesn't actually do you any favors.
Perfect. And now look, my target might be 250. And if I was at 300, that'd be fine. Even if I was at 325, that'd be fine. When I start seeing, above 350, it's like, all right, that's too many calories. So I need to just rejigger my hour. So it's that simple. Think about, and it's typically 3 things. Like if you're using a drink mix, it's 1 bar, 1 bite, 1 drink, right? That's the way I always think about it. And for me, and we've got a good question on this, so Rebecca and I can tackle it, because I think we're going to Q&A next anyway, we need to submit your threshold.
Yeah, we'll do a couple more things. Get your questions in the Q&A, because we are going to dive into some of these personal questions. I see Tina's got her hand raised. Go ahead and drop that into Q&A, and we will get a little deeper into some of the specific questions for sure on this.
So I will answer this one quick. When it comes to bars, gels, and stuff like that, I mean, there's nothing wrong with sugar in performance events. As a matter of fact, it's gotten a very bad rap for sugar in performance events. And absolutely in the last half of Everesting, I'm sugar and fruit. I'm getting however I get in there. That being said, I like natural things better. I tend to do better with fruits, dates, potatoes, sweet potatoes, things like that are better for me. Like I like to eat less out of the package, to be honest with you, as an answer. I'm not saying anything bad about the packaging because when the time comes, I'm ripping them open. There's plenty of them in my pocket. I tend to be a more natural approach early. Peanut butter and jelly. I will eat sandwiches. I like having variety and other stuff. So it's hard to say you find what you like. But again, that's why my goal is to show you the calorie and carb target. The more real that is, the better. So when something has real sugars in it and stuff like that, that's okay. It's sugars get a bad rap, and that could be what you find easy, but you have to find what works for you. I'm natural early. Remember my tip, eat heavy to light. So, I mean, I've done long rides where I've started out with a burrito in my pocket. I mean, look, it's rice, it's beans, it's burrito, right? And it's okay early. Could I eat that after 5 or 6 hours? No. So you find what works for you.
Yeah, and I find for me it's a combination of solid foods and the packaged foods. Something like Roctane drink mix. That's my go-to when I can't get anything else in. I know I'm going to get all the calories. I'm going to get it all because pretty much all I can do is drink. But I don't start there. Like Tim said, I make my own trail cookies, rice cakes. I like picky bars. Those are whole food sort of good bars. But there's no one formula for anyone, but I can't emphasize enough a variety, because what you normally train with on your 1 and 2 hour rides, is not, your body isn't going to want that hour 5, 6, 10, whatever it is. In a really long event, your taste palette changes, and you might be craving Pringles and potato chips and salt.
Pringles are awesome.
Yeah, so have all these foods, or a lot of people crave Coke or drinks that they would never drink in real life. So if your body's craving salt or sugar, have some of those things that you would never eat normally. Have them as a backup in your aid station. And definitely people tend to crave chips and things when they're really needing the salt. So listen to what your body's saying. I had cold pizza in my rest stop last year, and that went down really well, just because it sounded good and I wanted to eat it. So some of these crazy foods that you think that you don't take on your normal training rides, your body might be craving them. So put some of that kind of stuff in there. And if you don't eat it, you don't eat it. Great.
Couldn't agree more. All right, let's get into the final section, submitting the Giddy Up Challenge results.
Cool.
Rebecca.
And this is important. We are going to come back to Q&A, so hang in there, you guys. Remember, we got prizes we're giving away at the end. We got a Be Good prize for 3 of you at the end, so hang in there. But this is important because I want you to submit your ride properly. I want it to count, and I want it to count for a few reasons. One, I want it to count for you. I don't care if anybody breaks a world record, does an Everesting, gets in the Everesting Hall of Fame, any of that, but we want to capture you because we're fundraising for the Be Good Foundation to protect open spaces and public lands. We want to let our partners know that you're all taking part. So it really does help us to capture you. So even though some of you are like, I don't want to submit my results, I don't care what the leaderboard says, please submit, because it really helps us actually continue to do events like this, because it helps showcase that you showed up and who was there and what they did and how it worked. And it also helps us learn and tweak the events for future years so that we can do better next time. So there's a lot of reasons to submit your results. And not lastly, we're going to bribe you. And we have not just leaderboard prizes that we'll do at the awards ceremony on Tuesday, but we also have a bunch of selected prizes that are just going to be randomly selected of some really cool stuff from our partners. So I'm going to bribe you, but I'm also going to ask you to submit your results because it's important to us. It's important to me and Tim and our partners. to showcase what you did, and we want to celebrate it. So it's really easy this year, a little bit more automation than it was last year. So the first step is connecting, one, get a free Strava account if you don't have one, to connect your Strava to everesting.cc. And everesting.cc is the group that is actually really helping us with the technology behind this all. And so if you've been on there, it's the website that keeps Everesting Hall of Fame and all that kind of stuff. Don't worry. I mean, you might get on the Hall of Fame. That's awesome. But we're using their technology to capture all of our results, no matter what challenge you're doing, whether it's Everest or choose your own. Submit your results here. And when you connect your Strava account directly to Everesting, at this link here that you see on the screen, veloviewer.com/giddyup. It's also on the website. We're also going to send you a reminder email so you don't forget. That will link your Strava account. Do that ahead of time. This is part of your pre-planning, because then if it works as it's supposed to, it will automatically capture your result and upload it to the results. If you're like most of us, you're going to want to go in and check and make sure it uploaded, and that's great. You should do it. But this is connecting your Strava to Everesting. You'll see this screen that Tim has up right now, and it's really just the push of a button. It's no big deal, but then your result is going to be captured. So that's step one, connect Strava to Everesting. Step two is select your Everesting activity to submit. So like I said, it's automatically going to scan for any activity over the quarter Everest. So it's gonna hopefully automatically scan and grab any of the quarter, half, 3/4, full Everest and automatically upload it. For those of you who doing choose your own challenge, or if it didn't work for some reason, you just grab your Strava file and you drop it right in there, and no big deal. So so that's, you're submitting your challenge. And yeah, manual submission is required if you're doing a choose your own elevation. So for those of you, all you do is click on Strava, grab, cut and paste your activity and drop it right into that everesting.cc page that will be connected to your Strava. Again, we'll remind you this a lot of times, but connect them ahead of time. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, and you only have to do the manual entry if your selected elevation is below 2,200 meters.
Right. If you're doing less,
everything above.
Yeah, less than the quarter Everest elevation, then you do a manual entry. Or if something weird happens and you just want to check, but it's supposed to do it automatically, which is really cool. Step three, check, like we all want to do, to see that it's in there. If you need to amend it, that's only if something went wrong, your device failed, you shouldn't have to amend it. But if you do, there are instructions right in there. And then you submit it. And you do need to submit by Monday night at 11:59 p.m. in your local time. That's to accommodate for everyone around the world. So we'll capture all those results, finish by Monday night, drop it in. And then we will calculate, and we have awards on Tuesday, Instagram Live. We're going to be giving shout outs. We're going to be top fundraisers, leaderboard. We'll bring in some guests. It's actually really fun. We had a really fun party last time, but we need your results submitted so that we can get those, the award ceremony all together. Cool. And if there's questions on that, so this is where we're going to drop into the Q&A right now. Reminder, we will send you these instructions. So look in your spam folder. We're sending out a couple more communications this week that are step 1, 2, 3, a few reminders. I will remind you guys, registration is still open. We have a refer a friend promo going on with also more prizes. So if someone signs up and just drops your name right in there, you are automatically in our refer a friend contest. And so, yeah, bring a friend along. If your friends can't ride or run with us, you guys all know this, but we have fundraising pages open. I have a fundraising team. We've got some NICA school kids fundraising teams. Have your friends donate, set up your own team, set up your own individual profile, and have them throw in, like I said, $1 a foot or something like that for your ride, because one, it's going to motivate you, but two, it's going to protect our open spaces, land conservation, and access for more people. You can see here, these are our partners that have made this possible. And I'm going to say again, this is a community event. So tag Giddy Up For Good, because I want to watch you. I want to get into your Instagram and your social media and send you high fives and connect with you over the weekend. So we are going to be gathering your stories. We're going to be capturing them, making a video with all of you, but use that hashtag so we can find you and we know what you're doing. And Tim, what do we got? Did I miss anything with the details of the submission or anything like that?
No, I mean, the reality is if everybody if you went to, while we're answering questions, if you went to veloviewer.com/giddy up and clicked on it, it's going to bring you to this page where it says Velo Viewer Everesting Rebecca's Giddy Up Challenge, and click on that Connect with Strava. By the time we answer all the questions, you'll be linked up and can
boom, you'll be done. Do it now. It's super easy, super easy.
Once you do it, and then you go back there, like it'll auto fund. Like you can see, this is mine. This is my last year. It auto found it right off the bat.
It's really cool. Yeah.
So you don't need to do anything. All I need to do is push the submit button. I mean, when I make a new one, it'll just say, oh, here's your Everest, submit, click, done. So connecting is really the hard step. We've automated, unlike last year where you had to submit back to us and all that stuff, we've automated the whole process. So take advantage of it and hook up now. That's my only
addition. We're getting better. We learned that, from last year. We're definitely getting better with the automation, which is super cool. I'm excited about that.
Yep. Excellent.
Awesome. So should we do some questions?
Yeah, let's start tackling them right from the top. I'll do the first one, you do the second one.
Okay.
First one is, I've been able to get 200 to 300 calories an hour. However, it's 80% carbs, too high of a percentage. It depends what you're eating to some degree. I'd go back to the grams of carbs be. And I saw by one of your later questions, my example was how you can get in trouble by not counting. That's exactly the point I was making. So you're better off reading the grams of carbs. If you think about this strategy, you're getting, I wanted to do 200 to 300 calories because I wanted your body to just get used to that. And don't get me wrong, you could eat a little bit more, as I said, but not too much more. But really what you want to do is make sure you're getting the right grams of carbs. So think about your hourly strategy. It's like a check down. First, I want my 70 to 90 grams of carbs, whatever you feel, based on your weight and other things, wherever you think you fit in there. That's at the core. That's step one. Then finish filling in, well, how do I get back there? That's what I was showing you an example. It's very easy to eat all sugar products and suddenly you have extra calories and all grams of carbs and there isn't much else in there. So you have to plan that accordingly. Grams of carbs first, calories second, fats and proteins should fill in that anyway. If you do those two, you're going to have to mix a little fat and protein to make it work. All right.
Cool.
Next one's you, Rebecca.
Next one's me from Monique. Is there a 24-hour time limit? Tim just mentioned, first time I've heard of it. If you want to be considered for the official Everesting Hall of Fame, that sort of stuff, then yes, they do have a 24-hour time limit. So just a reminder, we follow their protocol, which is you do your hill climbing challenge in one continuous push. It doesn't mean you can't take rest, but you're not doing a couple thousand feet on Saturday, a couple thousand on Sunday, and then finishing off on Monday. It's one continuous ride. If you go over that 24-hour time limit, no problem. Your results are still 1,000% valid for the Giddy Up Challenge. It's just for Everesting Hall of Fame. That is one of their criteria. And Tim, did I describe that correctly?
Perfect.
Yeah. Cool. So yeah, no worries. I know that was I made it. I did my Everesting on gravel last year and it took me 23 and a half hours and we were targeting 24 and I barely made it under, but the time limit is not something for the Giddy Up Challenge. It's just a, Everesting Hall of Fame thing. And we're using Everesting as a partner in capturing our results. So it doesn't make a world of difference for anything with Giddy Up. You're still on the leaderboard, all that good stuff. So yeah, take as long as you need, but it is one continuous push for your ride or your run. Go ahead. You're
All right, next one I got. According to TrainingPeaks, I burn 500 to 650 calories an hour. Recommend meal break every 3 hours. My little brain says that's too often. It could be. One of the things I want to point out, right, when you go back to my equation, that's what I was showing here was 300 calories on the bike, right? So you want to keep this pretty tight on the bike. Let's say you're going to stop. Like, I think your break should be every 3 to 4 hours. That's just, it's the right time. You'll burn calories. You're not going to be burning quite that many calories an hour because you're going to go uphill at a pace and you're going to coast generally down. I would eat 75 grams of carbs, 250 to 300 calories, but I would top off of those 4. That's where you really want to get that extra. Those meals tend to be a little more fat, protein, so one of the things that happens when you're breaking everything into an hour, listen to what Rebecca just said, it took her 24 hours. So you're really talking about kind of this, things tend to average their way out. Your body will find its own course. So if I was targeting, I'll go back to me, if this was me and this is my target, every 3 to 4 hours, I might lean more in the 4 hours. I'm pretty efficient in fuel burning, but I'm going to pick up another 300-400 calories in that meal. And that's where I'll go over. That's where I'll put in a little extra mix and whatever. So that is the top off. That's ensuring you have the extra. So you want that extra maybe every 3 to 4 hours. It really depends on, and when I say efficiency, I truly mean your metabolic efficiency. I could tell you how to find out, but we'd be here all night. You got to think about what your maximum calories you could burn in an hour is. My guess is you'd be better at 3.5 hours. Most people, Rebecca's pretty rare to be able to go 4 comfortably. Most people are pretty good in 3 to 3.5 hours.
And it's a nice mental break to break up your blocks like that. Like I said, it gives you something to look forward to. It gives you a little mini goal to look forward to. And if you find you don't need to maybe start at 3, start a little conservative, like we keep saying. And if you find you can stretch longer, then stretch longer. But there's nothing wrong with taking a mini break. I mean, and we're taking a break. It's 5 minutes. It's not like you're sitting down and taking a nap and, taking an hour and a half. You're taking 5 minutes. Maybe you swing your leg off the bike. This was basically, it was the only time I swung my leg off the bike was in my breaks like this. And I would put in some solid food. Part of my strategy of putting my aid station at the top of the hill is that I wanted to put like sort of a big solid chunk of food in my belly so I could digest it a little bit on the way down and actually eat it and chew it. Because on the climb, it was to me a little bit more, I had to be simpler with the types of foods that I put in my mouth on the climb because you're breathing harder. So thinking about what the food you can put in on the descent versus food you can get in on the climb were different for me. Cool. You take this next one, Tim, from B on FTP.
Is there a percentage of FTP you recommend for pacing? Yeah, it's hard to make a general recommendation because it really depends what your goal is. And I tend to think about this as compete or complete, right? So if your goal is complete, I would start at about 65% of your threshold as your target. If your goal is compete, I would start between 70 and 75. It really depends on your fitness. And then after the first 25%, feel it out. And because what's funny, right? What happens is you also have the reality of your climb grade and your gearing might dictate your pace. And think about what I'm saying. If you've chosen a hill at 8% average, and you're running, a mid-range gearing, you don't have some ultra low gears, you might be forced to go 80 to 85% of your threshold. So, you want to make sure you have the right gearing on. You want to make sure that you can control the answer to what I just said. So 70, 75 is a good starting target. Your first one might be more like 70, right? And then inch up to that 75, but that's a pretty good long range performance to be able to do that. Then after the first quarter, if you're solid at that number, pick it up. If you're concerned about completing, 60 to 65 is a better start, and then pick it back up. Rebecca nailed it in her own personal experience. So many people just start too hard. And the one thing, right, you can always make up for starting too easy. You can never fix starting too hard, because when it's over, it's over. So just start slow, right? You can always make that up. You can always sit at the finish line when you're done and you're successful, saying, I could have went a little faster if I would have started harder. But if you start too hard, you don't get to that finish line. So be patient and hit those targets. All right, this one's on you, Rebecca.
Jill, we talked about it a little bit. Sports nutrition, favorite solid foods. I really like rice cakes. I make some homemade food. I have a trail cookie recipe on my website that you can find. That's been sort of a few years in the making of Alaska kind of trials and tribulations. But Tim kind of mentioned things like dates, nuts, make a good base for things. Potatoes are great. We used to have potatoes adventure racing all the time. I do happen to like cold pizza, but yeah, be a little careful, like Tim said, with how many like spicy meats you have on the toppings, and maybe a little like simpler, like cheese or marinara, or something simple. My body doesn't tend to like really spicy things, but some solid foods are great. Sandwiches are great. Turkey sandwich, yep. Peanut butter and jelly sandwich, peanut butter and honey. If I am doing solid foods though, I cut them into very small, like a sandwich I would cut into quarters. I don't put a whole big sandwich in my pocket. Just for efficiency, you can put a quarter in your mouth and put it in your cheek and continue to ride. Whereas if you've got to take a bite of the sandwich, put it back. So I do like to have everything in bite-sized pieces. But it's a combination. I really like Goo Roctane is one of my go-tos if, I'm not feeling great. Goo chews are also pretty easy to get down. But like Tim said, going from more solid to more liquid as a sort of progression works really well. Bananas are great. There are so many, and it really is personal, but I can't stress enough to put a variety in your aid station, because I guarantee you're going to want to eat something that you've never eaten before, that's kind of a little bit out of the box. Your regular ride nutrition, you're going to go beyond that, just because you're digging a little deeper. And so put some extra things. I know one person last year on the Trail Creek climb, they sent their friend in to go get a takeout pizza and bring a pizza back. And yeah, so Greg he had one for me up there too, which was great. And it's unique. Like I don't often eat a lot of pizza. So just variety. I can't stress that enough. And you're going to have to trial and error. I know Tim, Goo Roctane doesn't work great for him. He really dilutes it, whereas I'm good with it full strength. And so like Tim said, there isn't one magic formula. There is a foundation to start on with number of carbs and calories, but there isn't one magic, one stop shopping for everybody. So we'll just encourage variety. Fig bar, like the old Fig Newtons are like tried and true, I know a ton of people have raced on Fig Newtons. Yeah, so I hope that helps, Jill. I hope that helps a little bit. You want to take Austin's on branched chain amino acids, which are in Goo Roctane, and also their capsule supplements?
Just to answer the food. I know it was always time, but when I was in Innsbruck at Worlds one year, this family I was kind of staying with when I originally got there, like they loved this Bavarian pretzel stuff. And it was like these huge pretzels, like as big as my head. And they were like, here, this is good ride food. You should eat this. And I'm like, man, this is really good ride food. So I was riding around all like Innsbruck with like big pretzels stuffed in my pocket. I mean,
oh, I love that.
It was actually really good. It worked awesome.
For me, one aid station thing I really like are just like ramen noodles. They're real salty. They, in 2 seconds, the cup of noodles sort of things, those go down really well. And they're quick. That's one thing that if your body's craving salt and liquid. Do you have any other like aid stationy different things like that you like?
Yeah, for me, like in events, and it depends on your weather and everything else, but it's very similar. Like old fashioned like Campbell's chicken noodle soup in a can.
Mhm.
Just don't add water.
Yeah.
Literally, you could drink it. It's actually a really good rehydration. Yeah, because it's pretty much 98% salt. So
Yeah.
it'll fix you right up. But no, and you just learn and find all good advice. There's great stuff in the internet. That's a great place to just search too. All right, I'll take Austin's question. Your thoughts on GU, Roctanes, and BCAA capsule supplements? So I like Roctane, and Roctane's a good job. It's multiple sugars, which is important, which means you can burn more of the carbs in time. If you just have one sugar, each sugar kind of burns on its own little area of your body. So that's good. To me, it's a little high in calorie. I don't like that high calorie in a drink mix. I like their drink mix, and I also like that they have a good caffeine selection, some with and some without. And I think caffeine is the supplement you should be steadily, not
Mhm.
too overly, using in this day. The BCAA is another great supplement to use, and they're actually in the Roctane. But if you want to supplement a little more, that's fine. It will help you in this type of an event. Where you get in trouble with the calories here is if you get too many carbs and calories into your gut. The way your body processes carbs is it brings in more water into your gut. That's what GI is. And you're bringing water out of places it's needed at the muscular level. It's actually coming, well, it's kind of coming out of your blood, sort of coming out of your blood and muscles. And it's getting into your gut. And it's balling up there with all that carbs and just making a big bloated mess. That's what GI is. So I like to keep this down. So I'm a 1 scoop, sometimes a half scoop person of Roctane, just to limit that. And I'll eat a little bit more to make up to it. BCAAs, yes. Caffeine, yes. I'd be careful when you say caffeine. Like, to me, there should be some in the drink mix, and Roctane flavors, some have it, some don't. And then like for me at an aid station, coffee is something I would do. Just be careful of getting too much caffeine in any one hit.
Yeah, and I mean, that can roll right into B's question of she's trying to still figure out calories per hour, eating too much. From what I understand, you're 200 to 300. That's the on the bike nutrition, and you're going to get a little extra in your stops.
Well, I think, B, what you're doing, if I'm going to speculate, when you look at a fat, a protein, a carb, and a fat, and if I get this right, I get a prize. When you look at those 3 things, right, a gram of carbs equals 4 kilocalories of energy. A gram of protein equals 4 kilocalories of energy. A gram of fat equals 9 kilocalories of energy. And I think that's where you're getting 75 grams equals 300 calories an hour, because that is the contribution, that is the energy burned. But there's a difference between an energy burned carb and a food calorie, or an energy burned calorie and a food calorie. They tend to be very similar because your body's efficiency is about 22 to 23%. So for every calorie you consume, you lose about 77% in heat, and you actually use about 23%. So it's 1/4. So there's this weird little thing that makes them look similar that sometimes we mix and match. So 75 grams of carbs will burn, if you burned all those 75 grams of carbs that you took in very efficiently, would produce about 300 calories of energy. But to get there, you need to eat more food. It's actually about a 104 percentile. So there's a translation. So if you start with 75 grams of carbs, and you get, and that gets you to 250 calories or 300 calories, and you're adding just some. That's why I didn't put a number. And you see Namrita never put a number to the fats and proteins. It's just some extra of that. Your calories won't necessarily be exactly 300. You can consume around that area. You're talking about the burn rate of energy.
Whoa,
I
Tim,
think
you're
that's
going really sciencey on us right now.
Sorry, you got to have a little
will,
science in
I
this
will
field.
tell you guys, this is why I put my stuff in 1 hour bags or whatever, because I don't want to be doing math and science when I'm on the bike. So figure it out, figure out what you like, and yeah, sort of put it in your little bags and be ready to go. and then have your happy food, whether it's gummies or whatever it is, for the splatter control.
Yeah, and B said winner, winner. So I did have it right. And B, it's really hard to do the calculations. It's a confusing thing. So
That's
it's
awesome.
it's food calorie versus energy calorie are not the same thing, even though they mathematically are sort of in the same range.
Cool. I'll get this last one from, well, and B, survival is complete is amazing. Survival is amazing. I mean, that's what we're out here for. Kind of like we opened this up. I hope, my goal is that you are pushing yourselves to do something that seems really hard, because I think you're gonna find you're capable, and you're gonna learn something out there in your tunnel. And it's pretty cool to see people step up and rise to the occasion. Amanda asks, do you suggest warming up on rollers or trainers or some flats prior to the climb? You know, for me, I didn't warm up last year. I figured I would be riding a full Everest. Like, I have plenty of time to warm up. And like we said, starting a little bit conservatively, I just got on my climb because I didn't want to put extra mileage in. But that said, if that feels good to you, and that is your process, yeah, ride around a little bit, make sure your bike's good. There's definitely good to like make sure your gears are shifting, all that kind of good stuff. I probably wouldn't bother with bringing rollers out, into the field. I just ride around a little if that feels good to you. Maybe you're testing out what jacket you want to start in, or if you're, testing out the temperature a little bit. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Just keep in mind, it's really, you're gonna have plenty of time to warm up in an endurance event. And since it's your event, and like I said, you aren't at a start line with a bunch of charging stallions waiting to like push you over, you can take your time to get into it and warm up and do it at the pace that's right for you. But yeah, ride around a little, make sure you feel good, make sure the Garmin's on. Like, I would definitely do that. Make sure everything's operational, you're hitting the go button on your Garmin and all that kind of good stuff. Cause yeah, you want to record it and want to make sure all your things are good to go. Anything to add there, Tim?
Couldn't agree more. We have an old adage in bike racing: the longer the event, the shorter the warm up. The shorter,
There you go.
the longer the warm up. So you're out there for 24 hours, you're good. Warm up for a minute or two and roll up the hill, and just control your pacing. Use that first one as your warm up. All your energy needs to be going and covering
Awesome.
elevation gain.
We need to give away some presents here. We've got through the questions. I'm going to just a few reminders, you guys. Go back to Science and Soak 1, 2. If you haven't watched them, go to the website. There is a wealth of information on there. Make sure you're hashtagging us over the weekend, Giddy Up For Good. We're going to send you a couple more reminders. So check your spam folder in your email this week. I think we're sending one on Thursday as our final one. And then we've got our awards. Submit your results by before midnight on Monday. We've got awards on Tuesday, live awards. It'll be really fun. And I do really just want to thank all of you for being part of this. It's a really important event to me for the Be Good Foundation. It's no coincidence that we're hosting it on Memorial Day weekend. My dad, served in Vietnam and didn't come home. And so while you're out there thinking of our service members who sacrificed, I really appreciate you guys joining me. It's a super important weekend for me and for a lot of people. And with that said, since you tuned in so long, we promised to give you some presents. And so Tim, I think you have chosen 3 lucky winners to get a Feed Zone cookbook, a Be Good Mirror camp mug, and also a Be Good thermos. And just so those map lines and those map coordinates, just to give you guys a little bit of background, Be Good is how my dad signed all of his letters home from the Vietnam War. That's actually his handwriting pulled from his letters. And those map coordinates on that mirror thermos are the place in Laos where he was shot down, where I connected with him. So it's a real personal foundation, and all the graphics and things are pretty personal. And then the navigational, the compass basically that you see in the logo is about us finding our way and finding our path on the bike. And that's what we'll be doing this weekend on bike and foot, and really, using our sweat and hopefully not too much blood and tears, but our connection as a community to really be good and do something amazing by protecting our public lands and keeping these magical places open and accessible. So that is a little bit of history on Be Good and what that means. And so, Tim, who are our 3 lucky winners?
I think they're actually still here, and they're going to have to contact you for prizes, right?
Okay. Yeah. So for prizes, you can send me a direct message on Instagram. You can send me an email to rpi@RebeccaRusch.com and just say I won, and we'll send it your way. So Tim, who are the names?
There you go. And these were randomly selected out of people who signed in, and they're actually all 3 still here. So we're good.
Yay.
So winner number 1 is Tina Hart.
Tina.
Oh,
How about for Tina? Awesome.
And Michelle Nightingale is winner number 2. Michelle Nightingale.
Woo!
And winner number 3 is Rebecca Bishop.
Oh, I thought it was going to be me. But
yeah, you win.
Rebecca Bishop. Awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you all for tuning in. Tim, thank you for your science. Amazing. And to all of you, remember, registration's still open. GiddyUpForGood.com. Refer a friend. Fundraising is open. And I'm so excited to spend the weekend with all of you. So do your homework. Take it easy, prep, get your gear organized, and we'll hit the dirt starting Friday. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks
Good
for
luck,
joining.
everybody. Bye now.